Sens lose 4-3 in overtime to the Chicago Blackhawks. Despite the loss, it was an entertaining hockey game, and it was good news for a young Senators team as they head into the rest of the season. But, while the game ended positively for the young Sens, it didn't exactly start out that way. Just 40 seconds into the first period, Jonathan Toews gets a partial breakaway. He skates in down the right side and fires a shot 5-hole on Craig Anderson. Anderson turns the shot aside, and while it was a big save for the team, it was an equally big save for Anderson, who's looking to get back on the right track after a tough season. Many times last season you would see shots like that go through his 5-hole. For him to kick that away early in the year could be a big confidence boost and a sign of things to come for the team moving forward. A few minutes later, bang! Alex DeBrincat wires a rocket from the blue line top shelf over the glove of Anderson. That's a save he's really got to make. I know there was a partial screen on Chabot, and it was a nice shot and move from DeBrincat, but that shot really can't go in from there, and it was a tough way to start the season for the Sens. Give the team credit though. Last year that goal would have sunk the club. This year, not so much. Just over a minute after DeBrincat made it 1-0, Mr. Waivers himself, Zach Smith, tied the game. It was a relatively harmless point shot from the Sens forward, but thanks to a tip from Hawks defenseman Duncan Keith, it bounced over Cam Ward and in the goal. That was a huge goal for the Sens, as it not only tied the game and stopped the bleeding, but it took some of the bad taste out of their mouth from the first goal. It was also a huge goal for Smith, who snapped a 23-game goalless drought in the process. Of course, first games back after a lengthy delay are generally sloppy, and this game was no different. Around the midway point of the first, a weird bounce off a point shot from defenseman Cody Ceci gave Jonathan Toews a breakaway. Toews busted in partially down the left-hand wing and fired a shot off Anderson's arm and in the goal. That's another shot that Anderson really needs to stop, but it is also a situation where, for the second time in the first 10 minutes, Toews has a partial breakaway. That can't happen. The Sens D needs to do a better job of marking the forwards, and really they need to have their forwards step up and help out. They can't have CC moving down the wing to fire a shot and nobody there covering him. That happens, it's a block shot, goes back the other way, ends up in the back of your net. Hopefully that's a learning experience for the young Senators. Again though, the Senators refuse to quit. This is good news for a fan base who's grasping for any reason to feel positivity for this season. Last year, this team would have packed up and gone home after a couple of goals like that. This year, you see a fight back, which, for the rest of the season, could be very good news. The fight back culminated in a tying goal thanks to defenseman Maxime Lajoie, an NHL newcomer who was playing his first NHL game. That goal came courtesy of some nice cycling by the Sens forwards. Eventually, the puck would find its way behind the net to Matt Duchene. Duchene, channeling his inner Wayne Gretzky, would hold the puck behind the net, waiting for somebody to get open. Lajoie finally finds his way open. Duchene hits him with a filthy sauce pass, and bang! Lajoie finds the back of the net with an incredible shot. Welcome to the NHL, Max Lajoie. That was an incredible move, an incredible play, and a smart play by a young defenseman in his first game. Given that Lajoie has never scored more than 10 goals in any season dating back to 2010, including last year when he scored just once, it was an incredibly impressive play by the youngster. Shout out to his parents as well. It's always cool seeing the family in the crowd when the kid scores his first NHL goal. A few minutes later, the Sens go to the power play, and for the Blackhawks, that's no problem. Under Guy Boucher, the Senators have been terrible on the power play the last 2 years. There's no way they're going to score. Well, I'll be 9 seconds into the first power play of the season. Colin White, standing on the goal line, slides the puck 5-hole by Cam Ward, giving the Senators their first lead of the season. Again, that's a huge goal for the Sens. Obviously for the team, it gets them tied, but for Colin White himself, that's a big goal. He joined the Sens out of university a year and a half ago, thinking during their playoff run that he would get a shot to compete for a roster spot. That didn't really happen. Then last year, again, he didn't really get a shot on the Sens, so he spent most of the year in Belleville with the Belleville Senators. For him coming into this year to get a goal in his first game, that could be huge for the youngster who's looking to really put forth a solid first season in the NHL. After 5 goals in the first 15 minutes, things seemed to calm down a little as the Sens took a 3-2 lead into the first intermission. The game stayed tied until the final 10 minutes, when, you guessed it, Brent Seabrook tied the game. That guy always seems to be scoring big late tying goals or winning goals for the Blackhawks. Seabrook's goal looked quite similar to that of Lajoie's, which, as a Sens fan, is incredibly frustrating. If you know enough to do it to them, shouldn't you know enough to stop them from doing it to you? Give Kane and Seabrook credit, though. That was a nice pass and a nice play and a nice shot from a pair of NHL veterans. But that play really shouldn't happen. On the first 2 goals, I was critical of Anderson. I thought he should make a better save. This time, Anderson really didn't stand much of a chance. This was all on the guys in front of him. The play starts with a failed clearing attempt by Boro. The puck then finds its way back to Cody Ceci. He fumbles it. Patrick Kane steals it, carries the puck behind the net, and then, much like Matt Duchene, waits for a defenseman to get open, hits Seabrook, and bang, in the back of the net, tie game. The problem is, Seabrook was wide open on the play. Who was covering him? Was it a player problem or a system problem? Because if you look at the play, the Senators had 4 players on one side of the ice and 1 on the other side. That one guy was Matt Duchene, who was standing right next to the goal. So who was supposed to be covering Seabrook? Either somebody was out of position, or the system led to a big failure. Either way, that needs to be cleaned up. Fortunately, Ottawa hung on just long enough to get to overtime. Unfortunately, the sloppy play they carried through a large portion of regulation bit them in the butt in overtime. Just 30 seconds into the extra session, Thomas Chabot throws a pass cross-ice to Matt Duchene. Duchene struggles to handle a bouncing puck, gets it stolen off from Taves. He fires the puck up the ice to a wide-open, all-alone Patrick Kane. He gets in there, fires a backhand shelf over the arm of Craig Anderson, and that's the ball game. 4-3, the Blackhawks win over the Ottawa Senators. But, like every other of the 3 goals the Sens score, that can't happen. Sure, it's 3-on-3 and there's more ice, but Duchene has to do a much better job of making sure that puck doesn't get lost, and if it does, making sure that he hasn't allowed Taves to get by him, giving them at least a 2-on-1 and ultimately a 1-on-0. Again, like I said, with 3-on-3 there's going to be more space, but somebody also has to be back. Patrick Kane can't be standing wide open at the red line while the Senators have 3 guys in the offensive zone. That's asking for trouble. It was a tough way to end what was a pretty entertaining hockey game. Was it well played? No. But it was also the first game of the season, and that was to be expected. The good news for Sens fans is they were in a game against a team that is expected to either make the playoffs or at least fight for a playoff spot. Even better news is the chance was there to win the game. They just made too many mistakes to actually win the game. But those mistakes were correctable mistakes. You correct those mistakes, and there's no reason to believe that they couldn't have won that hockey game or any other if they play like that. Assuming they correct the mistakes. The bad news? They took advantage of a poor goalie who's on the downturn of his career, and has been for a number of years. This team can't expect to score goals that often or that easily, and they won't. How the Sens handle a better goaltender and a better offensive team will be interesting. I just wish we didn't have to learn that lesson against Toronto. See you Saturday night.